Princess Ada stood at the massive window of her royal chambers, her silver eyes reflecting the 3 moons of her homeworld. Her long, pale blue fingers traced patterns on the crystal glass as memories of Earth filled her mind. 20 years had passed, but she could still smell the fresh grass and feel the warm sunlight on her skin. The princess didn't look like the other members of the Starborn Empire. Her skin had a subtle shimmer, like starlight on water, and her hair flowed like liquid silver. But it was her eyes that truly set her apart. They held a warmth that came from spending her early years among humans. "Your Highness," a soft voice called from behind her. "The council awaits your presence." Ada turned to face her attendant, smoothing down her formal white robes. "Tell them I'll be there shortly." As the attendant left, she allowed herself one more moment with her memories. She had been just 12 years old when her parents sent her to Earth as part of a cultural exchange program. The Starborn Empire believed that future leaders should understand other worlds, and Earth had fascinated them with its rapid technological progress. They had placed her in a small town, away from the big cities, with a human family that had a son her age. Tom was nothing like the carefully trained royal companion she had known. He was messy, full of energy, and always ready for an adventure. "You're weird," he had told her on their first meeting, not knowing she was a princess. But weird is cool. Those simple words had changed everything. Over the next 3 years, Tom had shown her a different way of living. They built tree houses, even though she could have designed a floating palace. They went fishing with simple rods when she could have called for the finest food in the galaxy. They rode bicycles down dusty roads when she had access to gravity-defying vehicles. Ada smiled at the memory of their secret hideout, an old barn at the edge of Tom's family farm. They had filled it with their treasures: interesting rocks, comic books, and Ada's drawings of her homeworld. Tom had been amazed by her stories of space, but he never treated her differently when he learned she was a princess. "Being a princess just means you have more responsibility to be kind," he had said, showing wisdom beyond his years. Like Spider-Man says, "With great power comes great responsibility." She had laughed at his reference to Earth entertainment, but the words stayed with her. Their last day together had come without warning. A crisis in the Empire had required her immediate return. She still remembered Tom's face as she left, trying to be brave, but failing to hide his tears. "I'll come back," she had promised. "We'll see each other again." But royal duties and imperial politics had gotten in the way. Years passed, filled with training, diplomatic missions, and the growing responsibilities of being heir to the empire. Yet she never forgot the lessons she learned on Earth: the value of simplicity, the strength in being different, and the power of true friendship. The sound of urgent footsteps in the hallway brought Ada back to the present. Her attendant returned, looking worried. "Your Highness, the council says it's urgent. The Void Collective has attacked another border world." Ada straightened her shoulders, pushing the memories aside. She was no longer the young girl who played in Earth's forests. She was Princess Ada of the Starborn Empire, and her people needed her. Yet as she walked toward the council chambers, she couldn't shake the feeling that Earth and its lessons would soon become important again. "Thank you, Tom," she whispered to herself. "You taught me that sometimes the simplest solutions are the best." She didn't know then how prophetic those words would prove to be, or that fate had plans to bring her past and present together in ways she could never imagine. The 3 moons cast long shadows through the palace windows as Ada walked to face the challenges ahead, carrying with her the strength of a friendship that had crossed the stars. The council chamber buzzed with nervous energy as holographic displays showed another world falling to the Void Collective. Red warning lights blinked across the star map, marking lost territories. Princess Ada watched as her father, the Emperor, gripped the edges of his crystal throne. 3 systems lost in 2 weeks, General Mark announced, his metallic armor reflecting the red emergency lights. The Void Collective isn't following any known battle patterns. He hesitated. They're acting unpredictable. Ada stepped forward, her white robes flowing around her. "Show me the attack pattern again." The hologram shifted, displaying the movement of enemy ships. While starborne warfare relied on precise, calculated movements, the Void Collective's ships seemed to move in chaos. "They're fighting like water," Ada muttered, remembering how Tom had taught her to skip stones across the lake near his home. "Flowing, adapting, finding every crack in our defenses." The Emperor turned to his daughter. "Explain." Ada waved her hand through the hologram, manipulating the image. "Look here. Our ships form perfect defensive lines, just as they have for 1,000 years. But the Collective," she highlighted the enemy movements, "they're breaking every rule of space combat. They're fighting like humans would." A murmur ran through the council. Humans were seen as primitive by many, despite being allies. The idea that their chaotic fighting style could defeat the Empire's perfect formations was unsettling. "Impossible," General Mark scoffed. "Their technology is far inferior to ours." "But their thinking isn't," Ada countered, remembering her childhood lessons. "Tom once showed me how his father's farm kept changing crop patterns to confuse the birds that tried to eat their seeds. Simple, but effective." Before anyone could respond, the chamber's lights flashed crimson. A communication officer burst in, his silver skin pale with fear. "Your Majesty, the Collective has breached the outer defense ring of Stellar Base 7. The room erupted in panic. Stellar Base 7 was supposed to be impenetrable, protected by the Empire's most advanced shield technology. The Emperor raised his hand for silence. "How?" he demanded. The officer projected a new hologram. They sent in their smallest ships first, Your Majesty. Hundreds of them. They crashed into our shields deliberately, overloading them. Then their main fleet came through the gaps. We've never seen such tactics." Ada felt her heart race. The Void Collective was using suicide runs, a concept unthinkable in starborne warfare. Their society valued each life too precisely to waste them in such a way. But the strategy was working. "They're not just fighting like humans," she realized aloud. "They're thinking like them. Adapting, sacrificing, doing whatever it takes to win." She turned to her father. "Our perfect formations and calculated attacks won't work against this. We need to change." The Emperor looked older than she had ever seen him. "What do you suggest?" Ada straightened her shoulders, knowing her next words would shock the council. "We need help, not from our traditional allies, but from Earth." The chamber fell silent. General Mark stepped forward, his face red with anger. "Ask primitives for help. This is absurd." "Those primitives," Ada countered, "think exactly like our enemy is fighting. They understand unpredictability because they live it every day. Their entire history is filled with smaller forces defeating larger ones through creative tactics." The Emperor studied his daughter carefully. "You spent time among them as a child. You believe they can help us?" Ada nodded, remembering Tom's creative solutions to everyday problems. "Father, our enemy is using chaos to defeat order. We need those who understand chaos to teach us how to fight back." The chamber erupted in arguments, but the Emperor raised his hand again. The latest battle footage played above them, showing another starborne fleet falling to the Collective's unusual tactics. "Send the call," he commanded. "Request aid from Earth's military forces." He turned to Ada. "I hope your faith in humans is well placed, daughter." Ada watched the battle footage, her heart heavy but determined. "It is, father. It has to be." The royal hangar of the Starborn Empire's central palace had never seen ships like these before. 5 Earth vessels landed, their hulls scared and worn, looking primitive compared to the gleaming starborn ships around them. Ada watched from the observation deck as the human delegation emerged. They didn't march in perfect formation like starborn soldiers. Instead, they moved with a casual confidence that made several council members shift uncomfortably. At their head walked a figure in dark combat armor, face hidden behind a tactical visor, moving with the quiet grace of a predator. "Commander Ghost," General Mark announced, his voice tight with disapproval. Earth's most decorated special operations leader. Ada studied the human commander with interest. Unlike the shining armor of starborn warriors, Ghost's gear was practical, with multiple weapons and tools attached. Even the color was chosen for function rather than ceremony. A deep gray that could blend into shadows. "Welcome to the Empire," the Emperor greeted as Ghost's team approached the throne. "We appreciate Earth's swift response to our request for aid." Ghost removed his helmet, revealing short dark hair and eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. "Thank you, Your Majesty. We came as soon as we received your distress call." His voice was calm, but carried natural authority. "My team has already reviewed the battle footage. We have some ideas." General Mark stepped forward. "Surely you'll need time to study our advanced combat systems and—" "With respect, General," Ghost interrupted, pulling up a holographic display from a simple wrist device. "We don't need to learn your systems. We need you to unlearn some of yours." The council chamber filled with shocked whispers. Ada found herself moving closer, intrigued. Ghost's tactical display showed the recent battle at Stellar Base 7, but with new annotations she hadn't seen before. "Your formations are perfect," Ghost continued. "And that's the problem. The Void Collective has learned to predict every move you'll make because you always make the perfect move. In battle, sometimes the best move is the one nobody expects." Ada watched as Ghost manipulated the display, showing alternative battle formations. They looked chaotic at first glance, but she could see the underlying strategy. It reminded her of the way Tom used to set up his toy soldiers, in ways that made no sense until the game began. "Your ships are faster, stronger, and more advanced than the Collectives," Ghost explained, "but you're fighting like machines. Predictable, programmable. You need to fight like humans. Adaptable, intuitive, willing to take calculated risks." "You mean fight without proper formation?" General Mark's voice dripped with disdain. "Like primitives." Ghost's eyes hardened slightly. "The Collective is beating your proper formations, General. Sometimes primitive is effective." He turned to the Emperor. "My team can train your fleet commanders in human tactical thinking. We've brought combat simulators calibrated to your ship specifications." The Emperor looked to Ada, who nodded subtly. She had seen the wisdom of Earth's ways firsthand. "Very well," the Emperor declared. "Princess Ada will oversee the integration of human tactics with our forces. She has experience with Earth's methods." Ghost turned to Ada, and for a moment, something flickered in his eyes, a brief flash of recognition quickly hidden. Ada felt it too, a strange familiarity she couldn't place. "Princess," Ghost bowed slightly, "I look forward to working with you." Before Ada could respond, alarms blared through the chamber. A tactical officer rushed in. "Your Majesty, the Void Collective has launched a surprise attack on our outer colonies. They'd broken through our defensive lines." Ghost's team immediately moved into action, their practiced responses a sharp contrast to the formal Starborn protocols. The commander turned to the Emperor, all courtesy forgotten in the moment of crisis. "Your Majesty, if you want to save those colonies, we need to move now. Let us show you how humans fight." The Emperor nodded grimly. "The fleet is yours, Commander. Princess Ada, assist them. Let's see if Earth's ways can turn this tide." As they rushed to the command center, Ada couldn't shake the feeling that she knew Ghost from somewhere, but there was no time for such thoughts now. War was coming, and it would take both human cunning and Starborn power to face it. The command center of the Starborn flagship hummed with activity as Princess Ada and Commander Ghost worked side by side. 3 days had passed since the humans' arrival, and already things were changing. The rigid formations of the Starborn fleet had given way to more fluid movements, adapting human military tactics to space warfare. "Move Battle Group 7 to these coordinates," Ghost pointed to a spot on the holographic map. Something about the way he moved his hands caught Ada's attention. The gesture seemed familiar, like a half-remembered dream. "That position leaves them exposed. General Mark protested from across the room. It goes against all standard defensive protocols. Ghost smiled, and again Ada felt that strange sense of déjà vu. That's exactly why the enemy won't expect it. He turned to Ada. Princess, remember how I explained about the fishing net strategy? Ada blinked. Nobody had mentioned fishing to her since those summers on Earth. You mean creating a trap by appearing vulnerable? Exactly. Ghost's eyes lit up with excitement. Just like when you're trying to catch the big fish, sometimes you have to let out enough line to make them feel safe. Ada finished the sentence. Her heart skipped a beat. Those were the exact words Tom had used when teaching her to fish. Ghost froze for a moment, then quickly turned back to the battle map. But Ada had seen the flash of recognition in his eyes too. The tactical room's lights suddenly dimmed as emergency signals flashed. Void collective ships approaching Battle Group 7. An officer announced, "They're moving to attack the exposed position." "Hold formation," Ghost commanded. His voice carried the same quiet confidence she remembered from someone long ago. "Wait for my signal." Ada watched as the enemy ships moved exactly as Ghost had predicted. They rushed toward what they thought was a weakness in the starboard defense. But battle groups 3 and 5 were hiding behind nearby moons, their engines cold, just waiting. Now, Ghost gave the order. The trap closed perfectly. The collective ships found themselves caught between 3 starboard battle groups, their escape routes cut off. Within minutes, the enemy fleet was in full retreat, leaving behind their destroyed ships. The command center erupted in cheers, but Ada barely noticed. She was watching Ghost as he studied the battle replay. He had a habit of tapping his fingers in a specific pattern when he was thinking. The same pattern Tom used to tap on their old barn's walls. "Commander," she said quietly, moving closer to him. "That trap, it reminded me of something from my childhood. A game where we used to catch fish in a pond." Ghost kept his eyes on the display. "Simple tricks often work best, Princess. Even children know that." "Yes," Ada continued, her voice soft. "I learned that from a friend once. He taught me that the best solutions aren't always the most complicated ones." She paused, then added, "We used to practice in an old barn, planning strategies with toy soldiers." This time, Ghost couldn't hide his reaction. His hand froze mid-motion, and he slowly turned to face her. For a moment, the busy command center seemed to fade away around them. "Princess," he started to say, but alarms blared again, cutting him off. Multiple Void collective ships detected. An officer shouted, "They're targeting our primary defense station." Ghost immediately snapped back into commander mode, but Ada saw him make a quick gesture with his hand. A simple crossed fingers signal that only 2 children had once used as their secret sign for "talk later." Her heart raced. After 20 years, after crossing the vastness of space, after rising through different worlds and different lives, could it really be him? Could the brilliant commander who was helping save her people be the same boy who had once taught her the beauty of Earth's simple ways? She pushed the thoughts aside. There would be time for questions later. Right now, they had a battle to win. And somehow she knew that this mix of starborn power and human ingenuity, of princess and commander, of past and present, was exactly what they needed. The Void Collective's attack on the primary defense station had turned into the biggest battle of the war. Princess Ada stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching as both starborn and human ships fought side by side against the endless waves of enemy vessels. "Their main fleet is pushing through Sector 7, an officer called out. The holographic display showed hundreds of enemy ships breaking through their lines. Commander Ghost's voice came through the communication system. "Princess, I'm leading Strike Team Alpha to defend the station. We need coordination from your end." "Understood, Commander." Ada's fingers flew over the control panel, directing starborn ships to support the human vessels. She had never seen such a massive attack before. The Void Collective was throwing everything they had at them. Suddenly, the enemy changed tactics. a group of their largest warships turned and headed straight for the command center where Ada stood. The princess quickly calculated their chances. The shields wouldn't hold against such a direct assault. "Your Highness, you must evacuate," General Mark shouted, but Ada stood firm. "If we abandon the command center, we lose control of the entire defense network," she replied. "We hold our ground." Ghost's voice crackled through again. "Ada, get out of there. We can't lose you." It was the first time he had used her name without her title, and something in his voice made her pause. But before she could respond, the enemy ships opened fire. The command center shook violently as the shields began to fail. Through the chaos, Ada saw a small human ship break formation and race toward them. It was Ghost's vessel, moving with impossible speed. "What are you doing?" she demanded. "Stay with your strike team." "Not this time," Ghost replied. Then, to her shock, he began whistling a simple tune through the comm system, a childhood song they had made up during rainy days in the barn, one that only 2 people in the entire universe knew. Ada's eyes widened. "Tom." "Hold on, Ada," he answered, dropping all military formality. "I promised I'd always come back for you, didn't I?" Ghost's ship shot between the command center and the enemy vessels just as the shields failed. He deployed some kind of experimental human technology, a massive energy field that absorbed the enemy's fire. The effort was clearly straining his ship's systems to their limits. "Ghost, Tom, your ship can't take that kind of power." Ada watched in horror as his ship's hull began to glow from the heat. "Maybe not," he grunted through the strain. "But I've got a crazy idea, just like old times." With his ship acting as a shield, Tom activated his emergency thrusters and began pushing the enemy fleet off course. The maneuver was impossible by any military standard, a suicide run that no starborn commander would ever attempt. But it was exactly the kind of reckless, brilliant plan that a young boy had once used to win games with toy soldiers. Ada immediately understood. "All ships, focus fire on the lead enemy vessel. Create a chain reaction." The combined starborn and human fleets responded instantly. Their weapons hit the already damaged enemy ships, causing them to collide with each other. The entire enemy formation collapsed into chaos. In the midst of the explosion, Ghost's ship spun out of control, its systems failing. Without hesitation, Ada took manual control of a rescue vessel. 20 years apart hadn't changed anything. She would not lose him again. As she rushed to save him, memories flooded back. Summer days by the pond, secret hideouts, childhood promises. Her childhood friend had grown into the legendary Commander Ghost, traveling across the stars to find her again. And now, in the middle of the greatest battle their peoples had ever faced, they had found each other at last. The universe, it seemed, had a way of bringing friends back together, even if it took 2 decades and a war to do it. The medical bay of the starborn flagship glowed with soft blue healing light as Ada sat beside Tom's recovery pod. His reckless maneuver had saved the command center, but the strain had nearly destroyed his ship. 3 days had passed since she had pulled him from the wreckage. "You know," Tom said, his voice stronger now, "this reminds me of when you used to patch up my scrapes after our tree-climbing adventures." He smiled, the same warm smile she remembered from childhood, though his face now bore the marks of years of military service. "Except back then, you hadn't just taken on an entire enemy fleet by yourself," Ada replied, trying to sound stern but unable to hide her own smile. The door slid open, and the Emperor himself entered the medical bay. Tom tried to sit up straighter, but the Emperor waved him down. "At ease, Commander. Or should I say, Thomas." The Emperor's eyes held a mixture of gratitude and curiosity. "My daughter has told me about your shared past. It seems we owe you a debt twice over, once for being her childhood friend, and now for saving her life." Before Tom could respond, General Mark rushed in. "Your Majesty, the Void Collective is regrouping. Our scouts report they're preparing for their largest attack yet. They mean to end this war with one final strike." Ada and Tom exchanged glances, speaking volumes without words just as they had as children. Tom pushed himself up from the recovery pod, despite the medical staff's protests. "Then we end it first," he said firmly. "Princess, remember our old game with the harvest birds?" Ada's eyes lit up. The double bluff. But that would mean. Exactly. Tom turned to the tactical display, bringing up a map of their territory. "Your Majesty, we need every ship we have, both starborn and human, but not where the enemy expects them." Over the next hour, they outlined their plan. It was unlike anything the starborn military had ever attempted. A strategy that combined Tom's human unpredictability with Ada's deep knowledge of starborn technology. Just like when they were children, planning their games in the old barn, each one's ideas made the others better. "It's risky," General Mark warned. "It goes against every principle of our military doctrine." "That's why it will work," Ada countered. "The Void Collective has learned to predict our traditional tactics, but they've never faced anything like this, the best of both our worlds combined." The Emperor studied the plan carefully. "The timing must be perfect. One mistake, and we lose everything." "We won't make mistakes," Tom said confidently, standing beside Ada. "Not when we work together. That's something we learned a long time ago." Ada nodded, remembering all their childhood adventures. "Back then, we were just two kids from different worlds who found out we were stronger together. Now we can show both our peoples the same truth." The Emperor looked between them, the human commander and his alien daughter, once childhood friends, now reunited as adults to save both their civilizations. In their faces, he saw not just determination, but absolute trust in each other. "Very well," he declared. "Begin the preparations. General Mark, relay the orders to the fleet." As the others left to prepare, Tom turned to Ada. "Just like old times?" he asked softly. Ada reached out and made their old secret hand signal, the one they had used to seal their most solemn childhood promises. Tom's face lit up as he returned the gesture. "Just like old times," she agreed. "Only now, instead of protecting a treehouse, we're protecting the galaxy," Tom finished. He stood up straighter, his strength returning. "And this time, I'm not leaving when it's over." Ada felt her heart lift, even as war alerts began sounding through the ship. Whatever the Void Collective was planning, they were about to learn what happened when human ingenuity and starborn power worked as one, when friendship crossed the stars and came back stronger than ever. The final battle unfolded like a dance among the stars. The Void Collective's massive fleet moved exactly as Tom and Ada had predicted, charging forward to what they thought was the Empire's weakest point. From the bridge of the flagship, Ada watched as their plan came together. "Main fleet in position." Tom's voice came through the comm system. He was leading the human ships, hidden behind a nearby moon. "Ready when you are, Princess." Ada smiled at his formal tone. Even now, in the middle of their greatest battle, she could hear the playful echo of their childhood games. "All starborn ships, execute Protocol 7, she commanded. Their trap was beautiful in its simplicity. While the Empire's main fleet appeared to retreat in disorder, small groups of ships released special devices that Tom's team had designed. These simple machines created giant clouds of material that looked like debris from destroyed ships. "The collective is taking the bait," General Mark reported, genuine admiration in his voice. "They think we're in chaos." The enemy fleet pushed deeper into the apparent debris field, their sensors confused by the fake wreckage. They never noticed that each piece of debris was actually a miniature gravity generator, based on an idea Ada had from remembering how Tom used to set up dominoes in complex patterns. Now, Ada gave the signal. All at once, thousands of gravity generators activated. The enemy fleet found itself caught in a web of conflicting gravitational forces. Their ships, pulled in multiple directions, crashed into each other or had their systems overloaded. "All ships, attack pattern Delta," Tom commanded. The combined human and starborn fleets emerged from hiding, striking the trapped enemy from all directions. The Void Collective never had a chance. Their rigid command structure, faced with a situation they had never trained for, fell apart. Within hours, their mighty fleet was reduced to scattered groups of retreating ships. As the last enemy vessels fled, the command center erupted in cheers. Ada felt tears in her eyes as she watched their forces celebrating together. Humans and Starborn, two civilizations united in victory. Tom appeared on the bridge, still in his battle armor, but with his helmet off. He walked straight to Ada, ignoring protocol, and they shared their old secret victory handshake from their childhood days. "Still remember all our old tricks, I see," he said softly. "Some things you never forget," Ada replied, then turned to her father. "Father, the enemy is retreating from all our territories. The war is over." The Emperor rose from his command chair, looking at both of them with pride. "No, daughter. It's not just over. It's the beginning of something new." He turned to address everyone present. "Today we learn that true strength comes not from perfect formation or advanced technology, but from joining different ways of thinking. From friendship that crosses the stars themselves." Later that evening, Ada and Tom stood in the palace gardens, watching the 3 moons rise. The victory celebrations could be heard in the distance, but they had found a quiet moment alone. "Remember when we used to imagine adventures like this?" Tom asked, looking up at the stars. "In that old barn, playing with toy spaceships." Ada laughed. "Reality turned out even stranger than our imagination." She paused, then added, "You're staying, aren't you? The Emperor has offered Earth a permanent alliance, with you as the military liaison." Tom turned to her, his eyes serious but warm. "I spent 20 years becoming Commander Ghost, building a reputation that would let me protect you when I found you again. I'm not going anywhere." "Good," Ada said firmly, "because it turns out the Empire needs both of us. Your human creativity and my starborn knowledge. Just like when we were kids." Above them, the stars shone brightly, witnesses to a friendship that had crossed light years and decades to bring 2 worlds together. In the end, it wasn't just about saving the Empire or defeating the enemy. It was about proving that the greatest power in the universe wasn't advanced technology or military might. It was 2 friends from different worlds, who never forgot what they learned from each other.